I'm Kenneth Witt, and welcome to Gun Dog Nation. Gun Dog Nation is much more than a podcast. It's a movement to build a community of people around the world that like to watch a well-trained dog do what it's bred to do. Also, we want to get our youth involved into the sport of gun dogs, whether it be hunting, sport, or competition. We want to build a community of people united to preserve our gun dog heritage and to be better gun dog owners. Tune in to each weekly episode and learn about training, dog health, wellness, and nutrition. We will also offer tips for hunting with dogs and for competition, hunt tests, field trials, and other dog sports that involve gun dogs. Please go to our website, gundognation.com, and subscribe to our email list. We will keep you informed weekly with podcasts that are coming out. We also will be providing newsletters with training tips and health tips for your dog. You can also go to patreon.com/gundognation and become a member. There's different levels of membership on there. Just go check that out. Also, would like to thank Sean Brock for providing the music for this show, the introduction and the outro. As Sean Brock, he played everything on there except the banjo by Scott Vestal and the dobro by Jerry Douglas. Sean is a neighbor of mine from over in Harlan, Kentucky. I'm just crossing the mountain in Hyden, Kentucky, and he's a super talented guy. But most of all, I want you guys to check out the Creekers. They are also from Hyden, Kentucky, and this is an up-and-coming bluegrass and country band, and these guys are hot. They're all over TikTok and YouTube. You will hear these guys because in a year or so, they will be on the radio. They are very talented. Their videos are going viral on the net. These boys are family. Two of the lead singers, one grew up with my daughters, and the other one is my cousin's son, so he's family. But check them out. Check out the Creekers. Also, last but not least, if you want to buy a hat, koozie, t-shirt, or even gun dog supplies, go to shopgundognation.com and you can purchase any of those items. Thank you so much for listening. It's a privilege to have people that want to put up with me talking about dogs all the time. I actually enjoy what I do, and I'm so glad to have this opportunity, and thank you. Hello, it's Kenneth Witt. Welcome back to the Gun Dog Nation podcast. I'm coming to you today from Red Lodge, Montana. I took a couple of days break from hunting because I've been doing it for about 6 straight weeks, and my 57-year-old body needs to heal. But I'm getting ready to start back to pheasant hunting out in South Dakota. But I've been wanting to get this gentleman on here for a long time. Our schedules, it's mostly my fault, it's just been crazy. But I really want to get him on even more so now because I'm using his training program for a puppy that I have from Chris Rudd, who also, I think, in some way partners with Dan on this. So Dan, before I go further, please introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do.
Okay, my name is Dan Ihrke, and I manage a 1,000-acre hunting preserve here in central Illinois, as well as have kind of formed and manage Gun Dog Success, which is a kennel that houses up to 80 dogs at a time. We have 3 full-time trainers, soon to be 4. And we've operated with 3 to 4 trainers, for the last 15 years. I started the operation out managing the hunting preserve about 30 years ago, and then started training dogs there immediately, but really wasn't proficient for probably 5 or 6 years, and then started doing it professionally at that point, and then slowly kind of worked my way into doing hunt tests, and I've probably got 20 years with HRC now, doing HRC dogs from the ground up to finish to, and then, of course, the Grand. The Grand has been a big part of what I do every year.
Dan, how long have you been? I know the Grand, and don't profess to be a hunt test expert, but it seems to be by far the most difficult, challenging hunt test. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, in my view, the Grand is definitely the most difficult because it ties in all of the difficult nature of technical concepts that you see with other tests in a real hunting venue that's not really forgiving with regards to lack of line manners and lack of the ability for the dog to keep their composure with all these the real elements of the hunt. Honor dogs, shooting a real gun, pointing at each bird, shooting the gun. So they're expecting, good hunting dogs level of stability, yet all of the technical elements out there.
Okay. I like that. That actually helped me think about it in a different light. So Dan, what is your favorite gun dog competition? Do you field trial any?
No. So I do really primarily HRC. I train clients that do AKC master hunts as well, but my primary focus has always been HRC from start to the Grand. So I don't do field trials. The young gentleman that works for me named Tyler Brenner, who I trained as well, he is dabbling into just about everything. But from my perspective, see, I've got my roots here at the hunting preserve. So I am deeply, deeply rooted in producing a product that goes to the field. And the Grand the Grand is really my crown championship of every year, because it again is the culmination of all these different gun dog exercises, drills, etc. Combined with the technical nature of field trials and high-end hunt tests. So that's what I focus. And the main reason is, first of all, I only have so much time because I'm managing this hunting operation. But secondly, I believe in the genetics that it's helping produce. Because, and I always tell people this, like, if you get a Grand Champion bred with a Grand Champion, or even better, a Hall of Fame dog to another Hall of Fame dog, you're guaranteeing that you have all of the very high end abilities, again, to do all these technical things, to be able to stay with these difficult regiment training programs, yet have the composure and the personality that makes it a pleasure to hunt with. And it's very difficult to get all those together. And that's what I love about the Grand is you cannot pass the Grand if you don't have those qualities, period. You're not going to do it. Especially you're not going to have a Grand Champion title because you have to have 2 passes at the Grand to get that title. So you're just not going to do it if you have a dog that can't maintain composure, and you're not going to do it if you don't have a dog that's got a great attitude about training that can't handle the rigors of a very difficult training program. So that's why I advocate the Grand at such a high level and hold it to such a high level. Is it's really dictating the genetics that are out there for my hunting customers. A lot of these other venues, because they are unrealistic and they don't involve a lot of the other elements that occur in the real hunting field, they're really not helping us selectively breed dogs that are capable of doing that. And so I personally, I kind of stay away from the bloodlines that are all oriented towards doing whether it's field trials or SRS, that don't have that Grand title behind them. Not that they're not great dogs. They might be the world's greatest dogs, but I don't know that. I do know if they're out of Grand dogs, they have made the grade. They've passed the test that I need them to be able to pass. They've proven that their bloodlines are the right bloodlines to be able to produce the type of dogs that I need to have.
Dan, I agree with you 100%. Doing this podcast, I've learned so much more about the test and trial world, from guys like you being on my show, and I'm learning every day. I read and listen to everything I can get my hands on. I listen to Chris Rudd's podcast religiously. I'm doing your videos now. We're going to talk about that more, but I've come with all my studies, and I'm very amateur, and I'm nowhere near your level. We'll never reach that level, but I'm finding the same thing. That's what I want for me. Everybody's different. If you want to. And I've got a field trial. I've got a son of Floyd, so he's a amped up dog. Rhodey Best is actually helping me with that dog right now to work on some stuff. I'm going to title him, and I've hunted with him, but no, I think you're 100% right. What I'm seeing and watching and learning as an outsider, as an amateur, I'm seeing that the Grand dogs are what I want. And that's why I've got this pup that you're very familiar with the bloodlines on too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good segue, Dan. First of all, I'm going to tell the listeners, I was actually told by a very well-respected pro trainer that Dan Ihrke is one of the best guys at building puppy foundation that he knew. And the guy that told me that, I don't think you would mind me saying it's Clark Kennington. And so I listen to guys like that. I listen to guys like Chris and guys like you and Rhodey Best, even his wife, Kristen. I listen to other people, that's how I learn. So I purchased your Retriever Foundation's puppy program. And I actually got it before I picked up my puppy from Chris Dallas, who she's probably rolling on 11 weeks maybe. And I started watching it then before I even picked her up. And I feel like I can't watch it enough. Some of the stuff, you make it look so simple. Then I realized, hey, this is really not that simple. I need to watch this over and over. So obviously your years of experience has led you to develop this program. Tell me how you developed it and why.
Okay, well, first of all, I did another series like this for DT Systems years ago, but it was much more simplistic. It was called DT the Dog. And the reason I did that is I didn't have the financial wherewithal to pay for it being done, but I recognized that people would drop their dogs off in terrible condition at 6 months old. And I recognized through, working with people that had younger dogs that we can prevent a lot of bad problems from occurring. We can prepare the dog a lot better and make a much better student if we start early. And so I started to develop this puppy training program just through trial and error, scientific trial and error. I was a biology major in college. My dad was a veterinarian. So everything that I was raised around was very scientific. And I just kept thinking, these dogs need to be prepared for all of these exercises which require pressure, et cetera. We need to create a good training attitude. So I started developing this puppy program. I had it developed to the point where I needed to get something on video, a video series, so my clients at home could prepare their dog and set them up for success. So DT Systems provided the medium or the platform to do a short video series. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where the person's going to come down, once every 3 months, and we had to pound out a ton of videos in one day. So I can only do so much. But I did it nonetheless. It helped a lot of people, and the level of a puppy, or the quality of puppy and their education after we streamlined this video and would get it to all of our clients became better and better. These puppies were just much better prepared, and so it definitely it made a big improvement in the puppies that we're getting down, and it allowed us to do more with them. So people were getting a lot more bang for their buck. And I recognized that over the years that this puppy program that I had done for DT, it was good, but it was missing a ton. And I also, I don't even know how many years that thing's been out, but I had a lot more research and development and new techniques that I wanted to show. So through meeting Chris, I was able to create this great relationship with him. He's a media guy, and he was able to set me up with the means to be able to do this puppy video. And so the main thing is getting those dogs prepared and creating a great attitude about training. So when they come down, it is not this massive culture shock to the dog. They already understand the language of training. They're already excited about doing it. They're already birdie. They're already retrieving. They already understand leash pressure. They already understand all the basic commands that they're going to get. So we have a student that's just ready to rock and roll.
I love that. Now, as far as the new program that you have that you and Chris have put together, what all things did you add that you see needed added on from the previous DT program?
Well, the previous DT program, aside from some other frills, I was very careful on the DT program, because I only had so much video to be done, not to include things where I thought people might not have enough information and put too much pressure on their dog. So anything having to do with pressure, I was extremely careful about, and I think it was lacking in some of the steps that are necessary. I did a little bit of collar conditioning, but again, it was nowhere near as extensive. So I also added placeboard casting. There's just so much that we added to it, and the level of detail also than the repetition. You know, with the DT the Dog series, I would do something and I would explain it at a basic level. I'd show a couple examples and move on. Where this new puppy program, you see the actual day-to-day repetition, and you can watch the puppy go from, you know, while you're doing the same general exercise and slowly adding new information, you can actually watch these puppies pick up the real fine new idiosyncrasies, or the new rungs on the ladder, so to speak. You can see each one of those increases in knowledge. Whereas with the DT the Dog program, again, there wasn't enough video space for me to include each one of those and to be able to watch that dog develop through the whole scenario.
You know, it seems like the way I'm going through your program now, and you know, I'm a little behind where I should be for the dog's age, because I keep wanting to go back and make sure I've got it down correctly. And I'm trying not to get in a rush, because that's my nature.
Yeah.
But I feel like that I can see where this is going. You know, you're giving hand signals to the feed bowl. And I thought, man, when I get out to the field and we're starting to work on blind retrieves, this dog, because of the foundation that you've taught, it's going to be simple. I mean, the dog's going to understand back and angle back just from his early puppy stages of feeding. That is, I assume, where it will take me. Hello, this is Kenneth with Gun Dog Nation. Many people quickly become frustrated and confused when training a retriever. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy's online courses eliminate all the guesswork by giving you a proven training system that will help you train a dog that anyone will be proud to have in their blind. Learn where to start, what to do next, and what to do when problems arise. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com to learn how you can train your retriever. I have used this method myself. I have been through it a couple times with different dogs. I refer back to it lots of times when I'm trying to get dogs freshened back up for hunt test season. I highly recommend them. I have actually been a subscribed member of Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy since 2016, and I would suggest anyone use it. I highly recommend it. They have an app that you can get to on your phone. You can do it from your phone, your laptop. You can't get any more convenient than that. I've used it. It's proven and tried. And I know literally hundreds of people that have done the same thing that I've talked to. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com and learn how to train your own retriever. Hello, this is Kenneth Witt, and Gun Dog Nation is proud to have one of their sponsors as Retriever Training Supply, based in Alabama. Retriever Training Supply offers fast shipping on quality gear. Your dog will love it. Visit retrievertrainingsupply.com to purchase gear to help you train your retriever. Listen, they have some of the best leashes I've ever found. It's stuff's made in America. Their leashes are, and they source them locally. They have anything you want, fast, friendly service, fast shipping, just good people. Retriever Training Supply.
Yes, that's right. What? And you had asked me a question I didn't really get the full answer to. You know, one of the things was that you had asked is what this new video series has more of. It definitely has more lining and casting drills. So not only like the old DT video had to show your dog hand signals with food bowls. And this one, it has food bowls, it has placeboards, casting, and it has what we call fun casting, which involves actually throwing dummies. So there's 3 different formats for the dog learning different angles or different views of the same general thing. So they're learning to generalize casting much better, as well as lining. So yes, they're going to understand what the word back means. They're going to understand what a left and right over and or left to right straight back is. And they're going to understand how to turn pressure off, and they're going to understand how to think in situations that involve the element of pressure. And so that's what we're doing. We're teaching a dog that can work through problems, a problem-solving dog that understands pressure is not the end of the world. It may be present. There's usually an easy way to turn that pressure off. And if they stay with us and focus and use a little thought, they can work their way through a problem. And there's always a positive answer when they do it. And so we're teaching the dog that giving up isn't an option, and that if you put that effort in, you're always going to get success. So when it comes time for that professional trainer to have the dog and he introduces pressure of different sorts, the dog's already going to come into it thinking, hey, this is no big deal. I'm not going to be intimidated by this. I'm just going to look for the right answer and give a little effort, and I'll be successful. So, the old-fashioned way, people would get these dogs at 6 months old, and they would just put them right into a formal regiment. And, I call it when a dog is upside down. An owner hasn't done the right work. The dog has basically learned to avoid any sort of controlled situation. The dog has learned to avoid any sort of situation where there could be some sort of pressure or punishment. And then we've got to completely rewire the dog. This creates a dog that is able to go into those new training scenarios and be much more apt to be successful right away.
Dan, what's something that you could do to a dog in the wrong way to cause it to develop an avoidance nature, that it wants to avoid pressure? Give an example, because I'm afraid I might do that, so I want to know.
Well, pretty much what everybody does. They give commands without any control or without any forethought. They don't, a good dog handler thinks about what they're going to do with the dog before it happens. And number one, make sure that you have an element of control. Okay, so you see it with a leash and a check cord. And we don't just give a command without thinking about the course of what's about to happen once after we give that command. So we have a game plan. So you never give a command without the ability to make a correction, without the ability to do something about it. And so people do it all the time. Their dog's running around without a leash on and they shout, heel, right? Or whatever, because they got the dog to come to them with a treat at one point, heel. They think that now when the dog is distracted running across the yard after the neighbor's barking dog, that all of a sudden that's going to work. And of course, they set themselves up for failure. Any logic would say that the dog's not going to listen to that. And they don't have a leash or a check cord on the dog. The dog just goes about it, does what they feel like doing. And they just start a bad habit immediately. Now the dog has epic failure training wise and gets away with it, gets their positive reinforcement by doing the wrong thing. So anytime that you give your dog any sort of formal command, you have to be prepared and think about it. And that's why the video series is set up to show you what the command is, what the positive reinforcement is going to be when your dog does it right, and what the corrections are going to be when the dog does it wrong. And so you'll know that going into each one of the scenarios. And again, it shows the mechanics of how to physically get your dog to do what it's supposed to do. And you'll always come out of it with a dog that does what you ask him to do, and then gets some sort of positive reinforcement, because positive reinforcement is when the dog gets what they want for some sort of behavior. And that's the most powerful element in dog training, is positive reinforcement. And unfortunately, the real world is that dogs are not always going to do exactly what they're supposed to do, even if we think we have what they want as a positive reinforcement. So we also have to teach the dog that there is some sort of repercussions when they do the wrong thing. And that's where any sort of what we call positive punishment comes in. And that just basically means when a trainer adds an element in there that the dog doesn't like when he doesn't do the right thing, right? So that would be, for example, the pinch collar, the e-collar, a heeling stick, an ear pinch, any of those are things we would call positive punishment, and they are part of dog training process. So we teach the dog that positive punishment is going to be an element. It's not something to fear. It's just a light feeling of pressure that will go away when the dog starts to do the right thing. And again, when the dog is through with this video series, they learn multiple types of pressure or positive punishment. And they learn that if they give in to that pressure and perform a certain behavior, that pressure is going to go away immediately, and they're going to get paid somehow. They're going to get positive reinforcement.
Yes.
Right. And so we create that positive training attitude. Now the dog says, hey, pressure, who cares? In fact, I'm all about getting a little pressure because I know, first of all, the pressure is going to go away. It's not going to be anything intimidating. It's not going to scare me. It's not going to make me want to bolt or go away. It's literally going to be something that's taught to me that I understand. It's going to go away when I perform a certain task properly, and then I'm going to be immediately rewarded with some positive when I do it. So then the dog's going to get that pinch collar on. They're going to react to the healing stick for whatever might be the method of pressure at that point in a positive way. They're going to say, bring it on, man. This is great. And this always has a positive outcome. And I'm looking forward to these training scenarios. I'm not looking at the pinch collar like it's going to deliver some scary, unknown type of stimuli that I can't turn off and I don't understand. It's all logical and easy to deal with. And I believe that people that follow this program, whether they're going to continue and do formal training on their own or whether they're going to send the dog to a professional trainer, either way, the dog is going to be much, much better psychologically and just have a nice, easy transition into the next level.
Dan, one of the things you do in your video, and I'm trying to make it a habit for myself now, is I always be out training a pup, and I never really had a check cord on. And I see that you use that a lot, and I understand it now. But tell the listeners why use a check cord during especially young puppy training.
All right. So this pretty much goes back to what I was talking about earlier. You know, if you give a command to a dog, you have to have the ability to ensure that if the dog decides not to do that, not to perform that command, that it is not allowed to just freely be disobedient and then seek its own positive reinforcements by doing its own thing. So for instance, I'll give you two examples. One guy has a check cord, one doesn't. So this individual had taken treats with this puppy in the house and taught it the here command, right? So, and he's had a great result, right? So the dog in the house, because there's nothing better than that treat, he says here, and the dog comes flying over to get that treat, right? So now that individual goes outside, and he doesn't have the check cord on his puppy. And he's got his treat, so he figures, I'm going to be fine. You know, the dog always comes to me now. So he gives the dog command, the here command outside, and the puppy is not interested in the treat at that point. The puppy is interested in the neighbor's dog. So he says here, the puppy just goes running away and spends 5 minutes chasing up and down the fence after the neighbor's dog and is having a lovely time. So now the dog's listened to a command, been completely disobedient, and gotten positive reinforcement by doing the wrong thing. On the contrary, the person that had the check cord on the puppy says here to the dog, and just like the first instance, the dog says, I don't want the treat right now. I'm going to go take off after the neighbor's dog. He's able to stop the dog with the check cord. He's able to give it a bunch of tugs, start running backwards, kind of make himself look attractive, get the treat down. Now the dog knows that he's not going to go over to the neighbor's dog, and he says, you know what? The treat, I guess, is the best thing at this point. He takes the treat from the handler, and minimally, the dog doesn't learn to go be completely disobedient. And in the best light, the dog will come take the treat and learns, hey, you know what? It's impossible not to listen. I might as well listen because there's still always a payment at the other end. And it washes out the dogs by using an element of control like that. You're able to wash out the dog's conscious focus on other distractions and other ideas of things that they might do other than listen to it. So it's able to, from day one, show the dog, hey, those other things are not available. Those other forms of positive reinforcement, they're not available. So it's not worth trying. It never works.
Yes.
Right? And so we call those dogs that have been trained the wrong way upside down dogs. And let me tell you from a professional standpoint, and I'm sure other pros that watch this would completely agree. When you get a dog that's detrained or upside down, that actually is used to avoiding control and is used to getting positive reinforcement by not listening, because people simply, a lot of times it's ignorance. They just don't know to do the puppy training properly. But when we get those dogs at 6 months old, it's so much harder on those dogs, first of all. It's a giant culture shock. And it also takes us probably 2 months longer to get the same results. And we can do it, but we just have to start completely over. And we have to retrain, or we have to eliminate bad habits. And eliminating bad habits, as you know, takes a long time. They don't just go away overnight. So we have to kind of completely flip that dog psychologically upside down and get them thinking the right way. It just takes time. So that's money out of their pocket. And you're never going to get the same result. It can be close, but you're never going to get the same result. I call it promoting a criminal mentality.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have that check cord. And if you decide to give that command, you're leaving it up to a completely chaotic or unforeseen result. You don't know what's going to happen. And typically, most of the time, the dog is going to gravitate towards eventually learning, hey, you don't have any control of me. I'm going to go do whatever the heck that I please when you give me a command.
Hello, this is Kenneth Witt with Gun Dog Nation, and I've got to tell you guys about something that I've gotten hooked on lately. It's Faux-licious. These are gourmet instant pho and ramen bowls that actually taste like the real deal. When I'm out in the field all day and the last thing I want is to settle for bland camp food, Faux-licious is what I go to. It's authentic, the flavor, it's real ingredients, it's ready in just minutes. It's perfect for hunters, fishermen, or anyone on the go. And you can get them over 1,900 Walmarts nationwide, your local HEB here in Texas. Or you can just go online at fauxlicious.com. Trust me, once you try it, you'll keep a few stocked in your bag, in your backpack, or for your next adventure. I just want to say this, I want to add this to this commercial, because I know the owners of this company. They've hunted on my ranch. Joseph, he and I actually met in Colorado on a hunting trip that was a real adventure. They are true hunters. They've hunted at the ranch, and I've hunted with them. And Anna, she is just amazing. She's the one that came up with this idea. They were both on Shark Tank. They are amazing people. So I love seeing people like this have a business. And I just had to say that in addition to the commercial, because I really believe in the product and I believe in the people that made the product. Be sure and go to fauxlicious.com or go to Walmart or HEB and try their product. I promise you, you will like it. I love this. And this segment of advice that you've just given would have saved me lots of headache in my early years. But you're basically having to rewire the dog, right? When you're correcting these, once that dog learns how to positively reinforce himself by some other means, you're having to take this dog and rewire it. I just lack of better words, but program.
Yes. No, I think rewire is exactly that, because mental channels, although they're not like a direct wire, they're very similar. They literally go through neurons, right? And there is a very, that's a good example. And so, yes, you have, what ends up happening is the dog has some sort of stimuli that's presented in front of it. It has a decision to make, and that all goes through a mental channel. And we literally have to make new channels. We have to say, hey, that one doesn't work anymore. It will never work. And we have to prove that to them through hundreds and hundreds of repetitions. That mental channel doesn't work. This mental channel does work. And then you have to prove it to the dog, because the owner proved it the opposite way. Right. So trust me, doing it the right way you can have a completely different dog if you do it the right way versus the wrong way.
Well, I'll tell you something. I've got several questions today, and I'm trying to not kill you with questions, and this is personal advice. So I've been posting some videos, not many, just a few videos of me training Dallas, my puppy, who the puppy well, and I've gotten to the point where I'm so afraid of not doing everything correctly that I almost avoid training some days when I don't have time to go watch your video and then apply what I'm learning. Because I'd rather delay the training a little bit than to train wrong. But it's just because I've got a crazy schedule right now, and it won't always be this way. But these few weeks, I'm just doing a lot of hunting, a lot of content stuff, and so is that
so let me attack this from this angle. Number one, you're probably right, and I wouldn't say to not spend time with your dog, but I would say don't try to venture out and do something with your dog from a training standpoint that you really don't fully understand yet. So I would say you're better off to keep doing things that you know you're good at with your puppy while you're busy, just, short little sessions, and then continue socializing your dog. So the thing you don't want to do is just go, oh God, I'm afraid to do anything. I'm just going to keep them in a crate. And all they're going to see is the crate in the backyard. That's bad, because you're breaking one of the big rule in dog training is you have to socialize your dog. You got to get your dog to get out to see people, places, and things. And if you don't do that, you can really, really cause damage to the finished product of your dog. Think about your dog's brain like wet concrete. You only have so much time to get the dog to understand certain things, people, places, things, noises, right? Anything that your dog is going to see when it's an adult, it needs to see while it's a puppy. So be careful that you continue to socialize, but from a mechanical like obedience training and retrieving standpoint, just keep it simple. There's nothing wrong with that. You can come back with a dog that's a little bit older. And remember, we set the video up with time guidelines. And that's just to give an idea of, if you start early, this is in general what you can accomplish and when you can accomplish it. The reality is, and I tell this to my trainers that work for me, hey, if you get a dog that comes in at 6 months old, you're still going to do the puppy training. You're going to do every step of the puppy training, because otherwise it's not fair to the dog. You're expecting him to perform these tasks at a higher level when they haven't really been properly introduced. So, you can take a 2-year-old dog, believe it or not, and do these puppy training steps. I do it all the time. If I get a dog, and I will literally get a dog occasionally. It doesn't happen much anymore, because most people come to me and they say, what do I do with my puppy? And we set them up with the right pup, and we set them up with the video series. But occasionally I'll get somebody that comes in that either adopts a dog from a situation where there was zero training, or they've just been introduced to hunting, and they've got a 2-year-old dog, for instance, and they've just learned about training, and they come and they just say, hey, I've got this dog. I did nothing with it. Can you evaluate it? And when we do the evaluation, we look for instincts, right? We look for instincts and potential. And there's a lot of times that we'll take a 2-year-old dog, again, that's kind of detrained and upside down. And if they've got the core instincts, we can make a dog out of them. And we do exactly what I just said. We go back to all these basic training techniques and we do it. So don't be too afraid. Like, if you're not like exactly following that video week for week, and from an age standpoint with the dog, that you're in trouble. Don't fret. All of these things can be done later on if necessary, but don't stop getting your dog out to see people, places, and things.
Yeah. And I've been walking him in different scenarios, even on the hunting grounds that I'm going to, getting him used to that, and then also because of your videos and other people, I've been around people that I've watched and studied. I do make every feeding event a training event. So, and I did it this morning, but no, that helps. And I'm glad you told me that. Next thing I was thinking about too, I was just thinking about in the future on this puppy training with this particular pup. When you're starting, let's just say it's 4 months from now and you're training a new command, would you also, even though this dog has been, step by step in your method for say 3 to 4 months roughly, and now we're getting ready to go to the next step, would you still put a check cord on I haven't looked at the videos that far in advance, but would you still use a check cord on a new training command?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so the first step with check cord is desensitizing the dog to the check cord, right? Letting it drag around and get used to it. Hey, it's part of life. And and then the second step is actually starting to use it for obedience reinforcement, let's just say. So initially, puppy, when it's little, it's just dragging a cord around, getting used to the fact that, hey, this thing's attached to me. It's part of life. Not going to go away. And it's no big deal. Right. And then we start manipulating the puppy with it and actually, using it in correspondence with treats and, teaching the dog obedience commands, et cetera, with it. So essentially that check cord is going to be on your dog until it's collar conditioned. And then the e-collar is going to take the place of that check cord. If that makes sense. So if you do this right, your dog is never going to be without some sort of element of control there. Now, do you have a check cord on your dog every minute of every day? No, you don't. Obviously you can let your dog run around the house with no leash and check cord on. You just have to be careful when you don't have the leash or check cord not to make a mistake and, give a command when you know that puppy might not listen. So, for instance, I'll tell somebody that, hey, of course your puppy can run around the house, when he's supervised, without a leash on. Just don't make the mistake going here when he's across the room and distracted. If you want to work on obedience at that point, walk over to him with a treat in his hand, coax the dog to sit, get the dog to take the treat, put your leash on the dog, and then go do your obedience. So what you do want to avoid with regards to not having a leash or a check cord on is situations where there's going to be a lot of distractions going on, or where your pup could be put into a dangerous scenario, right? So a guy, for instance, brings his puppy to work, and he works in the city at a shop, and the shop door's open, and instead of doing it right, where the dog's either in a crate or he's supervised with a little leash on, he's letting the puppy run all over the place when he's busy. And all of a sudden, some sort of distraction happens outside of that shop door and the dog takes off and gets hit by a car, right? Those are the scenarios where you should always have a leash or a check cord on your dog, because obviously you're preventing the dog from getting himself hurt.
Hey, it's Kenneth with the Gun Dog Nation podcast, and I'm very proud to have as a new sponsor Cable Gangs. That's spelled G-A-N-G-Z. Brendan Landry at Cable Gangs has developed, in my opinion, and I'm a customer, the best tie-out systems on the market. They're easy to pack, easy to store. They can coil up just like an extension cord. They use premium galvanized steel cable coated with durable UV-resistant PVC coating. Brendan can make custom products, anything you want that's related to a dog tie-out system or a cable system or a way to safely secure your dog. They've even made a system that works with a bicycle, so you can go and exercise your bicycles and have your dog running along with you. It would be impossible for me to describe to you all the different custom applications they have, so just go to their website at cablegangs.com and check it out. They make dog tie-outs, a way to safely secure your dog if you're at a field trial, a hunt test, coonhound competition, whatever that might be. These guys make the best product on the market. Check it out for yourself. cablegangs.com. I like it. Other thing, the next question is, so I have actually been through the NAPOPO schools. There's a silver and gold school. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's a dog training school, and it's used a lot by military type trainers, canine stuff, police dogs, whatever. Okay. Anyway, the reason I say all that, in that training, I was trained to use a clicker. And I posted a video training my new puppy Dallas from Chris, and Chris texted me and just said, "Hey, why are you using the clicker?" And I'm just paraphrasing. I can't remember exactly how he said it. And he wasn't being critical or criticizing me. He was just explaining. And I said, "Well, hey, he mentioned using the word good." And then he went into an explanation of why. But he wasn't being critical. He was actually being helpful and not trying to make fun of me or anything like that. And I told him, said, "Hey, what's your method?" He told me that he uses good, not a clicker. And he told me why. And he gave me examples. So this is a great time because, I get asked questions like this from listeners. So I want to hear Dan Ihrke's, explanation or advice as to just using the word good and why you do that as opposed to clicker.
Well, Right. Well, first of all, I don't want to have to carry a clicker around with me all the time. To be honest with you, that's the main reason. I've always had great success not using the clicker. Now, do I think the clicker is a great idea for the average guy? Yeah, because the reality of it is look, the clicker is a noise, okay? It's just a noise. It could be a click. You could use any sort of noise that you could readily reproduce with the correct timing, right? And for the average guy, it's great because they don't have to regulate their vocal tone. It just that's the same noise every time, and all it is it's classical conditioning, okay? Meaning that we're making an association between the dog hearing a noise and knowing that there's some sort of positive reinforcement coming, and therefore knowing that whatever they're doing when they hear that noise is something that pleases you as a handler or is going to result in something positive for them, right? And so when I looked at it originally, I viewed other people doing it. I said, well, so how have I been able to get success without that? Well, because I just use the word good, or whatever word you want to use. I mean, you could make a funny noise if you wanted to. The thing is, whenever the dog is receiving that positive reinforcement initially, you're making that noise. And then eventually you use that noise when the dog is doing something that pleases you or they have the correct behavior. So again, in my program, I just use the word good, yes. Right? Give the dog a treat, good. And eventually that word good means to the dog, you've made the right choice and you are going to be rewarded at one point, okay. Right? Initially, we use something called continuous positive reinforcement, which means every time the dog does the right behavior, we give them positive. Every time. And then as the dog's behavior becomes more consistent, we start going to variable positive reinforcement, which means only so often do we give that positive reinforcement. So as the dog behavior becomes more solid, we back off on the exact consistency of when we give that positive reinforcement, and we only give it a select few times. In the beginning, we're giving them more positive than we are not giving it. And eventually it becomes only once in a great while that they get it. And let's talk about that real quick, because this is pretty fascinating. I always thought to myself, how does that work? Variable positive reinforcement. Why does that even work? Because once a dog realizes, hey, I might not be getting that treat once in a while, or I might not be getting that bird once in a while, not every time. The dog thinks, I'm not going to get it every time that I perform the command. Well, why do they continue to perform that command? And why does it work so well? And then I started thinking about human psychology. I started thinking about myself, like, why does that work so? I'm always go back to like evolution and like back when humans had to survive in the wild. Why would that change our behavior? Why would it work so well? And I started thinking about it. Think about fishermen and deer hunters, right? Do they get a fish every time that they put their line in the water? No. Do you get a giant buck every time that you go archery hunting? No. But isn't it kind of strange that if you got a fish once in a while, how that it's almost even more? Because if you got to get fish every time, it's almost boring, right? If you got a buck every time, it would lose its effect. But isn't it interesting how when you get it once in a while, it makes that part of your brain that just gets dedicated and wants to work harder and put more effort in. It's almost like it triggers an instinct that just wants to work harder to get that. And so that's why I think it works. It's pre-wired into our system from a survival standpoint, that if you get that positive once in a while, you can get it, but you have to work at it, right? So that's how that works. So then we start getting that we start lessening the amount of time that we give that dog the positive on a consistent basis, but it's there enough so that dog will always come back. For instance, when we do the sit command, every once in a great while, we give the dog a treat. Every once in a while, we give the dog a retrieve when it sits. And so it knows that there's always something to work for there. And eventually you'll get that positive if you just stay consistent.
I like that. Dan, being on social media, I'm sure you're on there too. And, you always get it's like armchair quarterbacks, right? You always get these people with their opinions and want to criticize others.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a members group on Facebook. I'm telling you all this for a point, I promise. I have a members group on Facebook, and a lot of people post stuff on there, and we want to create a safe place for people to have ideas and maybe even advice and not get ridiculed or criticized for it. So I'd actually had some people on there just really criticizing using treats. If you're using a treat, you're not training a dog, and so on, right? What's your response to that?
Uh-huh.
I'd love to hear.
Well, I'll tell you this. So when I started, the old school in dog training said exactly what you just said, right? So for years, I used, verbal positive reinforcement. I used what I call activity positive reinforcement, meaning like if the dog does something good, I let them do something they want to do. I used about every positive reinforcement other than treats, and I used a lot of pressure, right?
Yes.
And I had results, okay? I had results. But then I had a client bring a puppy down, and he said, for an evaluation, he said, "Hey, I just want to show you, I've been working with this lady down the road from me." And he goes, I know you probably don't want to see this, but I just want you to show you what I've been doing with this dog. Now, this was a little Springer puppy, okay? And this puppy was probably 4 months old. And he said, "Well, I've been working on sit, heel, and recall, and down." He pulls this puppy out. And at 4 months old, this dog in an open room, just dragging a little leash, would come to him, sit down, go lay down, and walk at heel perfectly. And my first instinct was, this damn treat trainers, everything everybody else says. And the guy went home, and I thought, now, Dan, you're a scientist. You need to throw out everything that you've heard and look at what you've just observed. Here's a 4-month-old dog that understands the verbal, the whistle, and has a tremendously positive attitude about performing these commands. Okay? And then I started thinking about this. I watched Mike Lardy's videos when I was probably 22 years old, and I knew nothing. Okay. And I might watch Mark Lardy's videos, and he's throwing all this technical lingo about all of his dogs out here. And I'm going, wow, I'm so confused. I have no idea, but I'm going to keep watching and he's talking about using pressure with the collar and the healing stick and all these other different methods. And then I'm watching his dogs, his finished dogs, because they showed, the finished product. And I'm looking at the dogs, and I've been raised around dogs. I rolled around on the carpet from the time I was a baby with puppies. My dad's a veterinarian. I've been in contact with dogs my whole life. I know what their signals are. I know what they look like when they're happy. I know what they look like when they're sad. I know what they look like when they're aggressive because I lived with them. All kinds of different breeds of dogs from the day that I was pretty much born till then. And I looked at Lardy's finished dogs, and I said, that's an awfully happy creature there, and he looks pretty damn interested in what he's doing. And I said, I know one thing. That pressure is not interrupting the finished product, which is that dog wants to work bad. He's excited about something that he's looking forward to do. So all these pressure things, I'm sure they work. But the core bottom line motivating factor of all of it is that dog has instincts and he wants to express them. He wants to go after the bird. He's just been taught to do it a certain way. And that's what really made me realize, well, wait, what is that? What is that desire? What is that desire to go? What does it really equate to? It's positive reinforcement. That dog is doing things a certain way because he knows he's going to get that bird. And that bird is an activity positive reinforcement. So then I said to myself, well, if that's the finished product, and that's really the motivating factor why that dog gets up every day and wants to work, is because that motivating pie in the sky factor of I'm going to get that bird is there. And that's why he's taking all this regimented training and he's doing what he does. then positive reinforcement is really the ultimate guiding light, motivating tool that we have. So why don't we embrace that when we have a puppy and teach them that if they perform these commands from the time they're puppies, that there is that motivating factor. Now, here's the critical thing. We're not only using that, okay? We're teaching the dog from an early age, using the treat to help teach the dog what they're expected to do, and the fact that there's always a motivating factor in there. And then we're backing it up with what we call avoidance training, where the dog learns that if they don't do it, there's some sort of repercussion. And we're teaching that from the day one, okay? So our pendulum isn't all the way over to one side. Oh, we only use positive reinforcement, okay? Our pendulum is centered, okay? Our dog knows that if they do something right, there's a great chance they're going to get something positive. Our dog knows if they do something wrong, there's a great chance that there's going to be repercussions. Think about any successful animal or person that you've ever been exposed to. How many successful people in this world, successful people, have you ever met that haven't had hard knocks at one point or another? Seriously, how many people that you respect? I bet you it's zero. How many well-trained animals have never had a repercussion of a pull on a leash or a nick on the collar? I would venture to guess zero. And that's because the real world that has carved all of these entities, humans, dogs, elephants, any animal that can use its brain.
Hey, it's Kenneth Witt with the Gun Dog Nation podcast, and we are so proud to be partnered with the National Shoot to Retrieve Association, also known as NASTRA. NASTRA has a common love for producing the best bird dogs possible. It's a great community that builds and bonds everlasting friendships. I've actually got to meet a lot of the NASTRA members who's taken me hunting and some other grouse hunting and stuff in different places. So I can honestly say I'm a member, and I'm proud to be partnered with them. NASTRA hosts national and regional field trials that emphasize the working ability of bird dogs. They have been around for over 50 years. There's a reason that NASTRA has been around that long. Please check them out at www.nstra.org and belong and support your local NASTRA club. They do have national and regional events, and it's a good place to help learn to be a better dog trainer, a better dog owner, and to compete with your bird dog. Thank you.
But my point is that even a wild animal is going to either get positive reinforcement when it does what it wants, okay? It goes to the right place and hunts the rabbit in the right place, it gets a rabbit. Goes to the wrong place, not only does it might not get the rabbit, but it also might get itself in trouble, right?
Yes.
Might get into a bee's nest, and the bee's going to give him positive punishment. It's going to teach him to go away. So it's part of any successful animal that lives in the real world is going to deal with all of those elements. And it's what carves. So we keep our pendulum centered. So my answer to the treat there, the treat isn't the only answer. It's a training aid that helps us move the dog to the next level faster and keep a better attitude. Eventually there's no treats. Okay. Eventually these dogs are not walking to the line going, I need a treat to want the bird. No, the retrieve and the activity of working replace the treat as positive reinforcement. So that's my answer. If you want to keep going along believing that using treats are wrong, that's great. I mean, I respect your decision. Go ahead. But I believe in my heart through a lot of experimenting and knowing that I used to do it the other way, that training with treats allows probably up to 4 times the speed of learning the basics.
That's my thoughts, Dan. I think that I'm definitely not a pro or an expert, but I think, you can train your dog without treats, but you can highly accelerate that learning with treats. That's my humble opinion.
Yes. And now if you're not backing it up with the appropriate avoidance training methods, i.e. pressure on, pressure off, then obviously it's not going to work either. So, you have to preface it. Again, the pendulum needs to be centered. You have to use both. And then you have to phase the treats out.
Interesting. This is great. Dan, I'm just thinking of something too. Like, there's so many retriever podcast, retriever trainers, retriever breeders. It definitely dominates the gun dog world. And on my show, I try to cover all breeds. And actually, your methods, people, even though your program is called Retriever Foundations, but these are foundations that can be used on any dog, any gun dog, upland waterfowl. People need to know that, right? It's not just a retriever training methods. There are.
I think that you're 100% right. Whether you're training just an obedience dog that's going to live in the house and go on walks with you, whether you're pre-training for a field trial dog, whether you're training for the Grand, whether you're training just your waterfowl companion, or getting your dog set up to be an upland champion. Their foundation that you have to use no matter what. You have to get a good sit. You have to get a good hear. You have to get a good place command or a kennel command. You have to get your dog interested in retrieving. All those are elements of that everybody's going to use. And so, what I'm excited about is this initial round, of advertisement. We really pretty much did Chris Rudd's podcast audience and my Facebook audience for getting the information out there about this series. But I'm really excited about, 6 months from now when the first group of people have trained their dog all the way through it to hear their opinion of what they got. And then also to get this information out to people all the way across the retriever board across the country, because this is the type of thing, I'll tell you this, if all I did was train dogs and I wasn't, and really at my core was just, hey, I want to train dogs at the finish level. That's all I really care about. I don't have time to do sessions with people when they're with their puppies, but I want to have the best dogs I can. And I want to give the dogs that come to my program the best chance of success. And I want to have the smoothest transition and the easiest time with those dogs while I'm training them. I would recommend everybody to buy this video, because those dogs, I would know that those dogs have a really not good foundation coming in, and their attitude is good about training. And that's going to make my life easier, and it's going to make the owner's life easier, and it'll make the dog's life easier.
Yes.
And you know what? If all this does is make it easier on the dogs, I'm still happy, because I know for sure that people do this with their dogs. They're going to go through force fetch. They're going to go through collar conditioning. They're going to go through all of the difficult force of the pile, all these steps that involve pressure. They're going to have much easier time with them, and they're going to be a happier animal altogether. And for that's worth its weight in gold to me, knowing that it's going to make the dog's lives happier and better.
And just going through the steps that I'm going so far in your program, you see that your dog is starting to learn.
That's right.
He's thinking. A little pup is thinking, and you can just watch that light turn on and click when he gets it. And it's a great feeling, especially an amateur guy like me.
Yeah. Well, I think, I got to look back, and I said this on the video because I just done researching it. I believe what I've read is that the dogs learn the fastest between the time they're born and the 4 months old, something like that. Okay. And it was really profound to me, and it totally made sense, because the more that I play with puppies, the more I realized, how quickly they pick up on concepts. The critical thing is you have to, no matter what dog you have to go at that dog's pace.
Yes.
You can't exceed the pace of the dog's learning. And that's why we made very general time references in the videos, because, again, you might have a dog that goes 3 times as fast as another one. And it does not mean that the finished product is not going to be very similar with both dogs. They just have different personalities, and their physical and mental development is different. Litter to litter, you can see some dogs are literally, like, at certain points of their development, their bodies are spending so much energy growing and allocating all of their energy into literally physically growing, that they're kind of plodding around and they don't look like they're interested in much. And when that happens, you just have to back off and just let them grow up a little bit. You'll get other puppies that seem the whole time they're just zippity, go, 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 give me more, give me more, give me more. And those dogs, you just keep going. And so, yeah, that's another thing that was probably one of the hardest things for me to do when we did the video, is decide how we configure this with regards to, chunking the information up so people could get a relative idea of where their dog should be. And that's what I hope people make sure that they do as going through, just as we recommend. Hey, get one thing done before you move to the next, and you'll always be fine.
Now, Dan, I assume that you're working, since you are managing a hunt preserve, that you have to, I would assume, train upland dogs too, or work upland dogs as well, correct?
Yeah. Oh yes. Yes. And one of the things that, people always ask me, well, what's your forte? Because if we're going to present like a video series to somebody, they're going to say, well, why would I buy it from this guy? What does this guy do that makes him better? Well, the first thing that I would say that has helped me be who I am and has allowed me to build this video series that I've had is the fact that I run a hunting preserve, and our success many times is based on the success of the dog finding the birds, retrieving the birds, and just being a great hunting dog. And so my methods have always been geared towards producing that at a real level, right? These guys are literally going out in our fields and they're coming back and they're either going to tell me their dog did great and found a bunch of birds, or their dog found nothing or didn't listen or whatever it might be. So, we've always had that as our quality control. And I've educated. One of the things that we do differently that I've noticed over the years at our program is we have a pretty extensive owner education portion of our program. A lot of energy goes into actually training the owners to handle their dogs. And in doing that, we've had the trials and tribulations of educating people, learning what it's like to teach the person to handle the dog, what works, what doesn't work. The sequence of when to train that owner to do what with the dog. So we've literally, like, part of our basics program, our initial 4-month program is the person drops the dog off. The dog's here for a month, and then every 2 weeks they come for a session. And on that session, we're demonstrating what the dog will do, but then we're also putting the leash in the owner's hand, and we're teaching the owner how to handle their dog. So when they leave, they're a working team rather than this great dog with an owner that has no idea what they're doing.
It's so important, isn't it? It's like someone handing you the keys to an airplane, but you've never been trained how to
That's right.
I think that's very important. And I still think I need training as a handler myself, even in hunt test situations. I'm learning as I go. Dan, I would assume you've trained a lot of different breeds, not just retrievers, or is that?
Probably every different hunting breed you can think of. And then I've trained a bunch of dogs that aren't hunting breeds to hunt as well. As I said, I started in 1997, believe it or not. And in the beginning, I trained anything that anybody brought me. And running a business, how it is. You gotta make ends meet. And if somebody brought me a dog and I thought I could make something out of them, I would do it. And I learned a lot doing that. I learned a ton doing that. In fact, I'm really happy that it happened that way, because it made me a better trainer to take these dogs that aren't, genetically cut out and learn how to use alternative methods to get these dogs to do what I want them to do. I mean, I've trained German Shepherds to be upland dogs. All kinds of crazy stuff over the years.
Dan, what's in your opinion, and all your years' experience, what is the most intelligent breed in your opinion that you've worked with?
Poodle. Standard poodle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're one of the smartest dogs. Field trial labs, incredibly intelligent. If you get the some of the old world breedings of the field trial breedings were really just high go power, no brains. You know, they run through a brick wall, take pressure up the gills, but those days are over with. The nature of the tests now are so technically advanced that the modern day field trial dog now is one of incredible intelligence, super high drive, but also usually fairly sensitive to pressure. And much more biddable. They're a real thinking animal. And so they score right up there on intelligence and speed of learning. They sometimes have a high level of independence. So if you're not a good trainer and you don't keep that leash and check cord, and if you're not careful with your puppy, they can outsmart you very quickly. And they can learn the wrong way. They can be at that criminal mentality, and it circumvent the training methods. And with going back to the good starts, if you get a good start with your dog and you teach it that it's fun to train and they're always going to get something positive by following through the training program, you create that good attitude and you avoid that dog, again, getting that criminal mentality and trying to seek positive. And those field trial, those really smart dogs, if you're not careful, they can really outsmart you and figure out how to be criminals. But at the same time, if they're trained properly from day one, they can be in absolutely incredible teamwork players.
Well, Dan, what involvement in the retriever breed have you seen over the last 30 years? What changes have you seen in the breed itself as far as the lab? Purina Pro Plan. Here at Gun Dog Nation, we use Purina Pro Plan for our dogs. We actually use the Sport Performance Edition, which is 30% protein and 20% fat, the beef and bison. It contains glucosamine, omega-3s for their joints. It also contains amino acids for muscles and antioxidants. And it also has probiotics. It's guaranteed to have live probiotics in each serving. There's no artificial colors or flavors. We see the difference in our dogs. We see the difference in their coat, their performance, their endurance, and also in recovery. Be sure to use Purina Pro Plan dog food. The reputation speaks for itself. There's a reason that Purina has been around for such a long time. We suggest that you use it, and we are so proud to be sponsored by Purina Dog Food. When you're getting ready to go on your next hunting trip, make sure you pack the most efficient and reliable ammunition on the market. Migra Ammunition brings you the most diverse loads on the market. Migra's patented stacked load technology is the epitome of efficiency. 2 shot sizes stacked together to create the most diverse and efficient line of shot shells in the industry. It doesn't matter what flyway, what state, or what the weather, the standard remains the same. At Migra, reliable loads that perform in any condition every single time. We're proud to have Migra Ammunition as a sponsor for Gun Dog Nation.
I would say that definitely intelligence has been selectively bred in a much better way than it was, I think, in the past. In the past, remember, I'm like, I started when Mike Lardy was very popular, okay? And I think a lot of the bloodlines before Mike Lardy came around, and I say Mike Lardy, of course, Mike Lardy organized, to my knowledge, a bunch of other really great trainers' methodologies. And then excelled in applying them with his dogs, right? So I'm not saying that Mike Lardy invented these methods. I don't think that's the case at all. But I think right in that general time frame, the really good trainers were starting to put together what we see now as the modern training methodologies. Training at that point was beginning to become set up for a real thinking dog, rather than just more crude training methods where only a real kind of knuckle-headed fire-breathing dragon could get through it. So since that period to now, I think that the training methodologies have become much better, and especially that since the cell phone came out, and people have been making YouTube videos and whatnot, the training's readily available. So I think those great training methods, they help the more intelligent dog excel faster. And where before maybe that dog, because the training methods were more crude, that dog would just turn off. He would say, I don't understand this, too much pressure, I quit. Now we can take those dogs that was just a little bit more sensitive and a little bit more thinkers, and we can get them to excel. So you're seeing a lot more of that, I think, in today's breedings. We're breeding dogs that can take more pressure at the same time too. They can think through pressure. That really, it just goes like this. Look, whatever your program is, the dogs they're going to excel are ones that just naturally do well in those programs. So, the modern methods, they involve a little bit of pressure with the e-collar. They involve a dog that if they're going to excel in it, has to learn a lot at fairly fast rate and keep a good attitude. So we're selectively kind of weeding out those dogs that couldn't deal with that. So we're really making a super dog. Now, what I don't like about what's happening now that the methods that are much more refined is we can take a dog that has relatively zero natural pickup, hold, and carry. Okay. Meaning that the dog's natural instinct, not trained, but natural instinct to go out and grab something and want to bring it back instinctually back to that owner and sit down and hold it without chewing on it and mauling the bird. That's being bred out because we all have force fetch, right? So if that dog has got everything but that natural pickup, hold, and carry, we don't care anymore because we force fetch and it's over with. We just mechanically showed that it has to. And as long as it's got general prey drive and desire to go get the dummy, then we can handle all the rest. And so that's where like the British lab invasion has come in. They don't use as many force fetching techniques. They don't use the e-collar. So their dogs typically will retrieve better. However, those dogs aren't able to take the pressure as well either. So they're like two different worlds. Yeah. And, but I've watched us selectively breed out natural retrieve. And that part of it kind of sucks. When I watched my dad train when I was a kid, he had these golden retrievers and he didn't even know what force fetch meant. If the dog didn't retrieve, you just didn't breed it, right? You give it away to some little old lady that wants a pet and you get another one, right? And so his dogs, I mean, of course he trained them as well, but those dogs all had natural retrieve. Like you'd throw something and they didn't even know why they were doing it. They'd run over there and grab it and come back and with their wagging tail, like, look what I got, boss. Aren't you happy with me? And I'm just seeing a lot of that bred out. It's kind of sad that it is, but it's also, it's just, for lack of better words, it's a product of today's rigorous training and testing, right?
Yeah.
Because, that dog that had the natural retrieve instinct, he might not have the marking ability. He might not have the courage. He might not have the ability to take pressure, right? He might not have the intelligence. And to get a dog that's going to excel in the modern high pressure, and I say high pressure just because there's so much that is expected out of these dogs. And it just keeps getting worse. I mean, you go to these, whether it's a master test or whether it's a SRS, they're just continuing to come up with new ideas to challenge these dogs. It's like, wow. And of course, we come up with new training methodologies to make them better at it.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting 20 years from now to see what these dogs are capable of doing.
I agree. And once I start getting more familiar with SRS and SRS training, the dogs have to just take so much to get to that level. I'm like you. I'm curious to see. Dan, a guy made a comment to me the other day, very knowledgeable guy, and I've thought about this while we've been talking. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this statement. So this guy I was talking to, he waterfowl hunts way up north on the border, and so it's harsher conditions than you would be duck hunting in Arkansas, right? It's cold. So he switched to a Chessie, and he had a hard time finding a really good Chessie that's non-aggressive, because you hear those kind of things. But
yeah, I do. I know that very well. Yes.
Yeah. And he says that he's gotten some good ones, but his thoughts were from what he's seeing. It's just interesting. Stuff like this makes me think, because I drive around as a dog nerd, that we are breeding. Now we've got the gentleman's dog, the house dog lab that's sitting in front of the fireplace, and that maybe now we are breeding softer dogs because, back in the day, our dogs were outside animals and, they hunted, they were in the cold and in the environment and the conditions. And, now that's frowned upon. But what's your thoughts about that statement?
You're 100% right. Again, it has to do with the selective breeding process, right? So the selective breeding process is basically involves, hey, what do we want our dogs to do now? Are they doing it well? Yes or no? If they're doing it well, we breed them well. A lot of guys might say, I've had plenty of these guys that raise dogs and that's all they do is hunt test. They don't even hunt them, right? Mm-hmm. So they never went out when it's 30 degrees and there's ice all over the water and check to see how many retrieves their dog will do before he wusses out and wants to go home, right? Yeah. I've had many times that I go out with a master hunter or a grand hunting retriever champion in the blind and the dog quits because it's cold. Yeah. It happens. I've gone out with the same and seen dogs that were whining excessively or, things where you think, damn, this dog on paper looks great, but you bring him in the duck blind and he's a blithering moron. Yeah. Right?
Yes.
So that's, again, going back to what I was talking about with the Grand being one of my litmus tests for good breeding. It's great, but you also have to throw in there and be very careful about listening to what that individual dog has done in the hunting field. Is that dog a real pleasure to hunt with? Does that dog have a great, really cold weather attitude? Because you won't know that on paper. They don't do the Grand when it's 30 degrees. Okay. So you have to be a really good detective when you're looking at bloodlines as well. Your point, I totally understand your point. I've had British Labs, for instance, that are the quietest, calmest, easiest to hunt with dogs. The absolute creme de la creme of hunting dogs with regards to being quiet in the blind, doing their work without much fuss. You don't have to sit there with the collar constantly, right? They're much more instinctual. And then I've taken them to the duck blind when it's cold and they get one retrieve and they're like, no, I'm not doing this. And you think, oh my God, we just bought the $2,000 puppy, the $3,000 puppy, put 30 grand into the training and he won't go after the second bird. Now, I'm not saying all British Labs are like that. There's plenty of them that'll do it 100 times. I'm just saying, yeah, it's a very interesting study to see what we're doing to the bloodlines by how we selectively breed the dogs. Absolutely. 100%. Totally am with you. And I go down that channel constantly. And so what I try to do when I recommend puppies to people, my clients, is number one, I want to have been around the dog. I want to know the owner. I want to really know what he actually does. I want to have had my hands on the dog. Or I want to know somebody that I trust that has done the exact same thing. Yeah. So I can ask him these questions, these important questions, right?
Yes.
Have you hunted with the dog? Is he quiet? Does he whine? What's his bird handling like? Right? Because a good trainer can train their way out of that at a hunt test. If a dog mouths a bird a little bit, whatever, you go back and you train out of it for a few weeks, then you take him to another test. But, there's a lot of things that you don't see when you're at a hunt test that you do when you're hunting. So I like to make sure that we have the titles. I like to have worked with the dog or seen the dog work myself. I like to know what they've actually done in the hunting field. And then I know that to the best of my ability, I've covered all the bases and that breeding should be the right breeding for a person. And you could go on and you could rabbit hole yourself to crazy when you're to the point you're crazy when you're trying to get that perfect dog for somebody. But we do a lot of consulting with people when they're going to get their dog. We get a lot of people that say, hey, I need your help. I don't know which way I'm going. I need you to help to find a dog. What should I look for? And it's not an easy task a lot of times because you're also dealing with, hey, who's going to be handling this dog? Are they a type A trainer that's going to be all over the collar if they need to be? Or are they the type of a super passive dude that can't handle one of these hard charging dogs? Are we better off to just give them a more easy going dog that's just kind of easy to handle? Maybe not able to get to such a high level of training, but does the guy really need that? Is he ever going to demand that? Right. So all of these things come to mind when you're trying to find the right dog for somebody.
It does. And Dan, that's brilliant. That's so important. It's not just your homework on buying a puppy. Like you say, I think that's great advice, essential advice, but also it's got to be matched to your personality type.
That's right. Yep.
I love it. Dan, are you close to the Heartland Lodge? Do you know where that's at?
No, I would not say close. I've looked at it in many years in the past to see how long. I'm guessing they're probably 3 hours from us ish.
I'm going to be going there at the end of the month. I just wonder if I'm passing through. I'd love to come meet you in person sometime, and I'll have my pup with me. But if you're around,
well, hey, so this, just so you can see, this is I'm in our cabin. My wife and I. This is an old schoolhouse that we build into a cabin, and it's I go here when I do podcasts so I can get away from all the distractions. But we've got this. So if you're coming through this area, you stay at this cabin. We can go hunt and do whatever you want to do. So yeah, I don't know if you've looked at Green Acres, the hunting preserve, but it's 1,200 acres and it's something else. It's something that this place has been a labor of love. Lots and lots of work. The reason I'm still here is because of the place itself. It's pretty cool.
Now, what area of the state are you in? Is it central, north central?
North central. So we're about 90 minutes south of Chicago. We're about 40 minutes north of Champaign.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done some landman projects in Southern Illinois. But so I know the area a little bit, yeah. But no, I'll give you a shout. I'm going to be, I've got probably, after tomorrow, I'll be hunting hardcore for the next week and a half. And then I think I have to show up at Heartland on the 30th. So I'll
okay.
But one of these days, I'd like to meet you in person for sure. Dennis, tell people, you got a great program. You got a great dog training program. Tell everyone how they can find that and how to look you up.
Well, if you're looking for any sort of dog training information on, do-it-yourself video type of information, it would be retrieverfoundations.com. And then if you're looking for the hunting operation, it would be huntgreenacres.com. And if you're looking to actually have us help you train your dog, it would be gundogsuccess.com. And the Hunt Club, Hunt Green Acres, and Gun Dog Success are really the same place. So if you go to the huntgreenacres.com website, you'll also be able to click over to Gun Dog Success and vice versa.
Okay.
So
very nice. Well, I can vouch for the program. Actually, a lady, Pam Norris down in Texas, who I think competes in the Grand quite often, also has one of the littermate pup to mine, and she posted a video the other day, and I was like, "Dang it, Pam, your dog's ahead of mine." And she said, "Well, I'm using Dan's program." And I said, "Well, I am too, but you're ahead of me." But she's meticulous, and she's a hard worker, and it pays off. But her pup is beautiful. And then Anna V, she just goes by her middle initial, I think, there, but she's got a pup too, and I see her videos. So we all keep in touch. And then what neat thing when I watch your videos, a prior not a litter mate, but a full brother, I guess, Fang, is in your video, and that's the same breeding as my pup. So it's so neat I get to watch a good trainer, get good advice, and I get to see how this bloodline developed.
Yeah, I've got a pup that's in my program right now that is one of the brothers to Fang, and he's doing fantastic too. Well, nice. And for the record, I think he's going to be a hell of a hunting dog as well. He's going to be a great hunt test dog, but I think that he looks like the kind of dog that is just going to be the kind of dog that it would just sit quietly in the blind. He's really composed, but I think he's got tremendous go power at the same time. That's what I like about that breeding is they're a little bit more composed than some of the hunt test dogs that you see out there. So it's a pretty cool balance that the puppies have.
I think so too. You were telling me, you're giving me good advice about, even if I can't keep up the training regimen this next week or 2 or 3 that I've been doing this, I've been throwing a duck wing, and she I just want to see her prey drive, right? And if she's aroused by feathers. And so, and I've got a grouse wing because I'm upland hunting and waterfowl hunting here. And now I've got a feather,
right.
And so she's getting exposed to a lot of scents, a lot of different feathers.
Okay. Red flag. Just be careful now.
Yes.
You don't want to feed that puppy. It's like you're feeding her steak and lobster every day. Okay. So, you're going to create a finicky dog when it comes to the dummy. So birds are only just used to get the dog aroused once or twice, get the smell there, get him excited. I would say as a rule, most of the time it's less than this, but the maximum that you would use birds is once a week.
That's what
maximum.
That's what I've been
okay.
doing.
And it is as long as that dog, when you present an inanimate object like a dummy or a paint roller, is always excited, then you can continue to do that once a week deal. But if your dog starts to not want the inanimate object because they're constantly looking for the bird object, then you got to quit.
Okay.
Trust me, once you got that dog interested in birds, it's not going. You don't have to keep replenishing.
Okay.
You're way better off right now to say, you know what? The most fun you're going to get is with that dummy, because otherwise you may cause a problem later when it's time to really need your dog to want dummies. Your dog might be thinking, I'm looking for that bird wing. I'd rather have that.
Okay.
So
I'll do that. And what about this? Like the only other thing I was doing, and I only would, each time I would clean a bird, I just give it one wing, and I did it one time. And then if I got a different species, I would do it at that time, say a grouse.
Sure.
And then a pheasant, just for the different scents. But I'm glad you told me that.
That would be bird socialization. That'd be bird socialization is what that would be.
Okay.
You're basically showing the dog all the different flavors, so to speak.
Okay.
But just enough to get it going.
Okay.
Because you don't have a whole lot to gain because by doing it excessively.
Okay.
Just enough to get your dog excited. Those dogs have an incredible memory when it comes to visual, audio, and olfactory senses.
Okay.
They're not going to forget it.
Good.
And so that's going into their storage permanently. And when it comes time later to re-expose, they'll pull it right back out.
Okay. So once enough really is.
Don't think that you have to keep doing it over and over, because a dog that constantly gets birds is going to expect birds. And again, there's so much in these next levels that's going to require high levels of momentum with dummies that I think you may cause more damage than you think you're causing by doing too much of that. So just, again, once a week maximum. And if you can get away with doing it even less than that, do it less than that.
Yeah, I'm thinking even one time's enough, just to get the scent of that bird, of that species, and then.
Yeah, so what I would be looking for when I'm doing it is I would use a small enough feather specimen where it's easy to get into the dog's mouth. I don't like it to the point where you got a bigger dog and a tiny little feather or wing such that they start chewing and getting bad mouthing tendencies. So in that case, what I'll do is I'll tape it to a paint roller or something so the dog's still getting the smell, but they're not going to feel so comfortable mouthing and chewing and crunching those wings.
Okay.
But again, I'd be looking for developing the interest, the confidence, and the pickup and the carry.
Okay.
So in other words, if your dog's interested in it, it goes after it, it picks it up, and it carries it for a reasonable distance. It doesn't have to come back perfectly. Puppies don't always come back. But if you can run with it and it starts running with it, carrying it, and it's happy carrying it, that's about all you need for each one of those different species, and then put it away and do more dummies.
Okay. Good advice. I appreciate that. Well, Dan, This has been great. I've actually may have learned more here than I have on anything. This is going to be a great podcast. I can't wait for it to come out. And I'll let you know. I'll try to give you a heads up. I always try to do that when it's going to be released. We're doing 2 a week now, so we do every Tuesday and Thursday. We have a release.
Oh, great.
Wonderful. And I was hoping it wouldn't get overkill and people get burnt out, but so far the numbers have keep going up. So we'll keep putting them out.
All right.
Dan,
well, congratulations on your success, and thank you for inviting me on the show.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure. This is such a knowledgeable session. I'm excited about it coming out, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on here.
Thank you. You have a great day.
All right. You have a good one too. Hello, this is Kenneth Witt with Gun Dog Nation, and I'd like to encourage all you listeners and viewers on our YouTube channel to check out patreon.com/GunDogNation. For $10 a month, you can become a member of our community, and we'll have access to lots of stuff. Mainly, we'll do a monthly forum, an open forum, where you can ask me anything gun dog related, and we'll learn from each other in the community. Should be a lot of fun each month. We will do that. So check it out, patreon.com/GunDogNation.